Can home studio mixes really sound pro? Well, I definitely think so, but that's not to say that you're not going to experience a lot of challenges, barriers and pitfalls along the way, and that's what we're going to be unpacking today in this video. So let's get things back to the beginning, and a good mix starts off with a good song, with good arrangement and a good recording. If you haven't got those three in place, then your mix in some way is going to be compromised, and that could lead to it sounding a bit amateur and not particularly pro. And it can be a challenge if you're mixing for somebody else, you're mixing for a client and they say, look, I want a mix which has got a lot of clarity to it and that's going to sound really professional, and then they hand you a mix with 120 guitar tracks in it or something. But if you're working on your own material, then really hone your arrangement skills. Really try and strip your song down to really what it essentially needs. That's going to translate really well when it comes to mixing. You're going to get more of a professional sound with a really good arrangement, and you're going to get a mix with clarity and space. And the same goes for recording. You want to get your recordings as good as possible. Think about your mix whilst you are recording and what your recording needs. As an example, if you're recording just acoustic guitar and vocal, you may want to mic your guitar closer to the past the sound hole and the body of the guitar to get more bottom end into ultimately into your mix. That's going to save you having to dial it in when you're in the mix. So always thinking ahead when you're recording at home to get it as close as possible before you get to the mix stage. I'm not a big fan of the fix it in the mix mentality. I know you can do a lot with gear and plugins these days, but the more you can do in the early stages, I guarantee you is going to lead you to a better, more professional sounding mix. When it comes to pro sounding mixes, there is one element which you have to get right. You can get some elements not so great, but this one element has to be great. If it's not, it's what's going to give it away as more of an amateur sound, and that's getting a great sounding vocal. It's absolutely crucial. And I don't really care what your favorite instrument is, or if you're in a rock band and you just want to hear the rock guitar and all you care about is the tone of the guitar and you're not that fussed about vocals. You have to be. Your vocals are number one. The vocal take has to be great. Whilst you're there and getting a good take, you also want to make sure that you take your time with your editing as well. Make sure your vocal is in tune and it's in time and you get a great take. You're selling the song. If you've done the vocal take on a certain day and you come back to it the next day and you don't feel like it's conveying it, or you feel like there's a lot of work to be done on that vocal, or it's just not getting you, there is nothing wrong, although I know it can be challenging sometimes, but there's nothing wrong with getting rid of it, deleting it and doing another take, or spending another couple of hours working on the vocals. The time you spend on the vocals to get a great vocal take will pay you back in spades when it comes to getting a pro mix sound. If you don't know where to start when it comes to mixing your vocals, I've got a free gift for you, a vocal EQ cheat sheet. You can download it, stick it on your desktop. It's going to be there for you every time when you come to mix vocals. You can grab that from the link below this video. Another big amateur versus pro mix giveaway is hollowing out, taking up too much of the low mids, over scooping out too much of the roomy, boomy boxiness that occurs a lot when you're recording in a boomy, roomy box in a home studio. You're looking around 400, 500 hertz around that area. Now, often you're going to want to take some of it out, certainly when you're miking up and on your vocals and with certain instruments. But if you take too much out, you'll find that your mix starts to sound too thin. And then you can find, if you come back to it and you've done too much cutting, then it can be easy to then apply a plug-in to be looking for warmth, when actually what you need to do is go back and take a look at your EQs, because you're probably cutting too much out around that area, and that's going to lead your mix to sound overly thin and in turn not very pro. And another EQ pitfall which can give the game away of it being more of an amateur home studio mix is overuse of the high pass filter. Now, high pass filters are great for cleaning up that low end and leaving that crucial space down there for the kick and for the bass, but taking too much away again is going to lead your mix to be sounding overly thin, and you're going to have a lack of warmth. So yes, use high pass filters, but just be careful and take care not to take them too far. one of the best ways to avoid this in terms of technique when you're mixing is to make sure that you're mixing within the mix. Now you can do this when you're also doing those crucial cuts around 400 or 500 hertz, removing some boxiness, but also bringing in your high pass filter too, rather than mixing instruments in solo. So when you're mixing within the mix, then you can hear how the mix is building up much better than if you're trying to individually get each instrument to sound at its best. Indeed, you know, that's not really a mix. When you're working in that way, sometimes it can be hard to hear the instrument you're working on within the whole of the mix, particularly instruments like guitars, for example. And a great little tip here is to just grab a gain plugin and stick it at the end of your plugin chain. Just ramp it up by 6 dB, say, so you can hear what you're doing, but you're hearing it within the context of the mix. When you finish mixing, simply just remove that gain plugin. Here's another great tip to check that your mix is standing up as a pro mix and not so much of an amateur mix, and that's the trick that I call the Holy Trinity. That's the vocal, the snare, and the kick. These are the 3 important pillars of your mix. Now you're going to be able to hear those when you're listening and monitoring at decent levels, but what you're going to do is turn down your mix till it's barely audible, and what you want to check is that your kick and your snare and your vocal are still coming through, because they're the 3 crucial elements. Some other instruments may well disappear at low levels, and that's okay, but what we're listening for is the kick and the snare and the vocal. If you can't make any of those 3 out, that's a good indication that you want to bring them up a little bit in your mix. Poor mastering, or a master that's too quiet when you compare it to pro results, is another dead giveaway that's going to make your mix, and now your master, sound amateur. These days I use LANDR online mastering a lot. I also use their mastering plugin too. You can get 20% off that if you want to check out LANDR below this video. But if you're doing your mastering yourself, simply make sure that you use reference tracks when you're mastering for both the overall sound of the master, but also the level too. Make sure that you use a genre which is similar to the track that you're working on, but also a mix that you really like too. That's crucial, and that you're familiar with on your monitors. Which takes me nicely onto monitors, and monitoring is crucial if you want to get a pro result, because if your monitors are lying to you, you're going to end up with areas in your mix which are going to constantly and consistently be a problem when you listen to your mix in other environments. The best way around this, one, is to have a half decent set of monitors. That doesn't mean they have to cost the earth. I strongly recommend the Kali LP series. I've got the LP8s behind me. They're not particularly expensive. Also the LP6s, depending on the size of your room, are excellent. So I definitely recommend checking out Kali Audio. But there's loads of not particularly expensive monitors out there which are going to do the job well for you. A decent set of headphones to reference against your monitors, I would definitely recommend, and also hooking up a little boombox as well. I've got a little radio just down here, like a little £10 radio, which is also helpful to hear how your mix is standing up on lesser quality speakers too. So having a few different reference options is definitely going to help you and aid you in creating more of a professional sounding mix. So I want to hear from you. Are you struggling to get pro results in your home studio? If you are, let me know what problems you're having in the comments box below. I love to hear from you. Also, if you've got any tips from working on your home studio, any big wins that have really helped you to get better results, share them with the community and let me know in the comments box below. Don't forget to grab that free vocal EQ cheat sheet, like and subscribe. Most importantly, go and have yourself a great day. Now, if you enjoyed this video, you're definitely going to want to check this next one out.